Hi, this is Ruth Royal from Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm really delighted to be speaking to Steve Pymm, Managing Director of Pymm & Co today. Hi, Steve. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Ruth. Nice to meet you too.
So, Steve, first of all, tell us a bit about Pymm & Co and what you do as an organisation.
So we're property professionals. We have three different departments within Pymm & Co. We have Pymm & Co Sales, which is known as an estate agent. So we sell people's houses on their behalf. We have Pymm & Co Lettings, where we rent houses on behalf of our customers. And we have Pymm & Co Management, where we then look after and manage people's houses for them as well. So three different aspects, all property related. I am also a director of a financial services company called Broadland Consultants, and Broadland Consultants organises mortgages and finance for people's properties, whether they're going to buy them for themselves or whether they're going to rent them out.
So that's a really broad portfolio there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that people do all different sorts of jobs across that portfolio and have got different skills. Would you, maybe starting off with the estate agent, first of all, talk us a bit about the different jobs that people do in that part of your business and what sort of skills they've got?
Yeah, of course. So that's where I first started. I started back in 1995 as the photocopier boy and the tea boy. So there's all sorts of jobs. So the most exciting one, I think, is valuing people's houses. So the valuer of each branch would come into the office in the morning, go through the daily appointments, and then visit clients' houses roughly every hour and a half. So he or she needs to be able to drive, they need to be able to value a house, they need to collate comparable evidence, so looking at other houses that have sold or that are on the market, they need to learn their industry and know which side of the road sells for more than the other side, and what street is better than the other, and what village has got the best schooling, and there's lots to know from the valuer's role. That was the job I always aspired to do. There's the negotiator's role in the office, so they're the people that negotiate the sales. They take the incoming calls from the clients and or emails, and they arrange the viewings, and then they follow the viewings up, and they try and create offers, which when we try and sell the houses. We have the viewings representatives. They're the people that drive around showing people around the houses. I did also really enjoy that. I don't like being locked in the office all the time. So getting
out. I'm so nosy. I'd love that as well.
Every house is different, and every person you meet is they're different, and the world would be a boring place if we were all the same. So that's what I love about our industry. You've then got the administration side. So there's a lot of legal paperwork that needs to be carried out. There's anti-money laundering. There's substantiation of offers, and we're governed by several acts of parliament. So there's the administration role within the branch as well. The really kind of up and coming and the quite exciting role is videography and photography. So we have a professional videographer and a professional photographer that work within the office. We've then got the marketing department. So we have a social media manager, and advertising manager, and then of course there's the HR side of things, looking after the company as a whole, and looking after the staff within it, and organising that. So that's a bit of a rough overview on the estate agency. The lettings side, we have the lettings negotiators, similar job to the salespeople. We then have the lettings viewings rep, again that's a similar role. And the lettings manager or manageress, who would then oversee that department. The management side is a bit different, because what we're looking at then is ongoing maintenance issues of houses. So, and there's a lot more legalities on that side as well. So we have to make sure our houses are safe. So we have to do gas safety certificates. We have to do Legionnaire's tests for water supplies. We have to do check-ins and check-outs. We have to make sure that our tenants and our landlords are looked after fairly. And there's sometimes disputes where people don't agree. So we have to know the legal side of that as well. So the management side's very different. and is a lot more administration involved in that as well. So there's all sorts of different jobs within the property sector. Broadland Consultants, the financial advisory. I'm not personally qualified to give financial advice. That's another kind of aspect. So a financial advisor would look to give people advice on different mortgage products, investment products, and insurance products. So, of course, everybody that buys a house, or most of us, need a mortgage. Not many of us are fortunate enough to be able to buy one with money in the bank. So the businesses work very well together, where somebody can buy a house. Broadland Consultants can then organise the finance for the house, and if they choose to rent that house out, then we can let it for them as well. And if the people are moving outside of Norfolk, then of course we can manage it for them. So the idea of the kind of 4 different departments, they actually all work hand in hand with each other, and there's different job roles throughout them all. There's something for everyone, really.
I don't think I've ever heard property explained so comprehensively, like all the careers and jobs that are available. That was so interesting, Steve. I think as well, for me, it really strikes me that probably a lot of those, I love how complementary it all is, but you probably need maybe very different skills to be a negotiator than you do to be an administrator. There might be some sort of overlap.
There is some overlap, but yes, they are very different skill sets, correct.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about, if you're going to be a negotiator, what sort of qualities do negotiators have?
So negotiators need to be organised.
Yeah.
They need to be thorough, and they need to be punctual. They can't be late, because you can't be late for an appointment.
Yeah.
And they also need to be able to explain things well. They need to be quite visual.
Right.
You can't.
That's interesting.
You can't talk somebody into buying a house, because it's a big purchase, and most people get a good feeling when they go in the house that they decide to buy. But what you have to do is you have to talk them into the idea of viewing it. So a negotiator's kind of basic job is to create as many viewings as they can for the right people, for the right houses.
Yeah.
You don't want to send everybody round a certain house. But it's all about quality, not quantity. So a good negotiator needs to be resilient. They need to be able to be, confident. But that's something that we can teach people.
That's really good to hear, because often you hear people saying that it's hard to teach confidence.
No, that comes with experience. As I said, I started off as the photocopier and the tea boy, and I didn't know. I didn't know the first thing about a house. I still lived at home with my father when I became an estate agent. But if you're willing to learn and you're happy to put your hand up and ask a question, don't be frightened to ask ever. Rather have a go, rather try and fail than never try at all, was always my motto.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great motto. And then for you, what sort of roles across your organisation tend to be like entry points for people? You've talked about your own entry point as sort of like a very junior.
So entry. So we do apprenticeship schemes.
Oh, brilliant.
I know that you can get a qualification in a state agency. And that's something that you can do at a college or online. And then the National Association of Estate Agents then run several courses, level 1, 2, 3 and 4. But entry level could be a viewings representative, where you're not necessarily in the office. You have to have a driving licence for that one. And you have to be well organised and punctual. Have to be a good map reader, but I suppose you've got sat nav now. It was reading maps when I started. But I mean, that's somewhere where all you need to do is be polite and courteous. I don't suppose I used to work in retail. I worked in a clothes shop. I actually started in Next, the clothing store, as I did 2 weeks work experience with school.
Right.
And I managed to get a Saturday job with them. And that retail experience gave me the help to become an estate agent. Estate agency is a bit of a cross between working in an office and retail, because it's an office environment, but it's a shop door. So customers do walk in and out, but you're working within an office. So it's a good mix.
That is so interesting. Again, that combination, like you say, of sort of office and retail in that sense. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but that's so a viewing sort that sounds like a really sort of good entry point into
Yeah,
your into an organisation, and the fact that you offer apprenticeships as well,
yeah,
it is also really
yeah,
positive for people looking to sort of get that
yeah.
start.
I mean, a trainee negotiator would generally help pick up the telephone,
Hmm.
help organise keys, maybe help the secretary with administrative duties in the office, and then they would start to learn and pick things up from the other negotiators. So a trainee negotiator is sort of above an apprenticeship. I would always say start at the bottom and work your way up. There aren't really any university courses. Of course, becoming a surveyor, which is part of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, the RICS, that's a fantastic way to get into it. It's something I never did myself. I started at the bottom and worked up, but you can go to university to become a surveyor, and then that way you've got a really good background knowledge of buildings and their construction, and that's a really good starting point, if not. But just
Yeah.
from a careers point of view, a trainee negotiator, whether that be in sales or lettings, is a great way to start. And my father always used to say, "You've got two ears and one mouth for a reason." I do like to talk, but when I started as a trainee, I just listened and I picked things up.
Yeah, absolutely a brilliant way to learn. And I guess you mentioned sort of the financial services aspect in terms of what you do, and that there are people there that are qualified, and they're whole different sort of qualification routes, aren't they, into financial services?
Correct, yeah. So you have to be FCA qualified, and there's all sorts of different exams you can take. But yeah, that is so. Estate agency, in theory, is non-regulated,
Hmm.
so you don't have to have a certificate or to be able to become a trainee estate agent. To become a managing director of an estate agency, you have to be qualified up to level 3 from the National
Right.
Association of Estate Agents. Um, that used to be voluntary, but things are changing. It is becoming more regulated, but the financial services side of things, yes, you have to sit your exams and go through that to make sure, because you're giving people financial advice which could affect their future.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, that's interesting to unpick. Steve, would you tell us a bit about your journey? Because I'm also conscious that they obviously you've got this brilliant, like the property that is your business. You've obviously been an entrepreneur to set up your own business and get going that way. So it'd be lovely to hear a bit about your journey into that
Sure, yeah.
route.
So I never knew what I wanted to do as a child. I actually wanted to be an archaeologist, I think. But when I was young, the film Indiana Jones was kind of quite prevalent, and I thought he was really cool. So I studied history at school, and I really enjoyed that. My sister always knew what she wanted to do, so we used to go to Cromer Carnival as children, and the red arrows used to fly past,
Yeah.
and my sister would point to the sky and say, my older sister would say, "I want to be a pilot." And ever since we were at school, my sister wanted to be a pilot. She went into the RAF, and she became the 4th British female tornado pilot, which I'm very proud of.
Wow.
Yeah, so she ended up teaching the students in Dubai how to fly fast jet airplanes, and she's now back in the RAF teaching the RAF students how to fly airplanes. So I'm very proud of her. But I never knew what I wanted to do. So I did 2 weeks work experience. I went to school in Thorpe St Andrews in Norwich, and I got my work experience at Next. They offered me a Saturday job, and then when I left City College, I did my A levels at City College. I still wasn't sure whether to go to university or not. So the Saturday job put me in good stead. I saw an advert for a clothing shop in Norwich called Hatters. It's a men's clothing shop. And I went to work there for a couple of years because I just wasn't sure what to do. But working in retail was a really, really good stepping stone. It taught me how to talk to customers, how to handle money, how to greet and meet people, but all different people from all different walks of life. So one day a gentleman came in, and I sold him a suit, and he said, "Oh, you've got a bit of chat. Have you ever thought about being an estate agent?" And I didn't actually know what one was, if I'm being
Yeah.
brutally honest. I'd lived in the same house all my life in Brundall with my father. We'd never bought or sold a property, so I didn't know the first thing about it. And I went to work as the trainee. I was on £6,000 a year. when I was working in Hatters, and the estate agent chap offered me £6,000 a year plus commission. He said, if you continue to talk and ask people questions in the correct manner, then you'll be able to earn some commission. Within about 6 months, the gentleman who was the valuer of the office, he unfortunately broke his leg. And because I had a few nice suits from the clothes shop that I used to work in, the chap said, well, Steve, why don't you go and have a go at valuing the houses? So I started valuing the houses. I did really well at it and I really enjoyed it. I didn't have that much experience, but I was always honest with people. And I said to the customers, I'm not 100% sure what your house is worth. I think it's somewhere between X and Y. But I give you my word, I will try my very best for you. And I will do my very best to sell your property. And we did really well from it because we were honest. Within 3 years, I ended up running that gentleman's shop. And then within 5 years, at the age of 23, I was offered a franchise. A bit like McDonald's, where you don't need the huge amount of money to set the business up. You kind of rent the business. And I had that business for 5 years, which gave me enough money at the age of 28 to then go and open up Pymm & Co, my own business, at 28 years old. I'm now 46, so 18 years ago. And we started off with one shop and just myself, my wife and another member of staff. And then we ended up with 45 members of staff and 8 shops. That was before the internet really took a hold. We're now down to 2 branches because a lot of people work from home now. And we don't need all of the branches. And a lot is done on the internet now as well. So going back to earlier conversations of the videographer and the photographer. So we now have about 25 members of staff in the estate agency and the lettings business. And we have about 18 members of staff at Broadland Consultants on the financial services side, where my business partner Simon is the MD of that business, because I'm not actually qualified or directly authorised to give financial advice. I'm just one of the directors and a shareholder. So it all started from nothing. I never knew what I wanted to do, but I always asked questions. I was always punctual and I was always polite. And if anybody ever wanted anything doing, I'd always put my hand up and I would say, I'll have a go. So if I can give any advice, turn up on time, look smart, be polite. And if anybody asks for a volunteer, put your hand up.
I think that is great advice. I think that's great advice, especially like you say, to sort of get the experience. And it seems to me that you're like the personification of, that expression that luck is preparation meeting opportunity, that actually that you'd because you'd volunteered and you'd been proactive, you'd had a go at stuff, you had all that experience that had prepared you for the opportunities that came up, and you've clearly taken all the opportunities that have come up in front of you and gone for it and done brilliantly well to have your own company. I mean, obviously you've sort of touched there on advice. We've sort of asked people at the end of these talks, if you were to go back and have a conversation with young Steve leaving school, what bit of sort of careers advice would you give yourself, like with the benefit of hindsight?
So I think if I remember rightly, our careers day, we had somebody from Norwich Union, which was Norwich's biggest employer. They're now called Vista. We had somebody from the army and somebody from the police force. My sister always knew what she wanted to do, and I didn't have that direction. So I would just say, looking back now to young Steve, I'd say be patient. You will find your path. Just keep working hard and keep motivated. And don't be frightened to ask. If you ask anybody in the correct way, you'll be surprised how people will open up and how people are actually very, very nice. I've been in some huge properties with some very, very wealthy clients, and I've asked in my youth, do you mind me asking how you came to be in this position? And you know what? A lot of people have a backstory, Don't be intimidated or frightened by people. If you're polite and punctual and well presented, if you ask anything in the right way, you'll be surprised the answer you'll get back.
Oh, well, that is fantastic. Thank you so much for giving up your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
You're very welcome, Ruth. It's nice to meet you too.
And you, Steve.